Hello, people of YouTube. This is once again the Great James, and you thought this series was long since dead, but no, it is not. Today we are going over the Grimm Archetype, again made by Sean Largess, and this archetype is supposed to be the counter to the Ruby Archetype. And for those of you who are newer, it's like X-Crawlers and World Legacy / Chalice, or for you older school players, Ally of Justice and Worms. So yeah, a rival sort of thing. But yeah. Again, for those of you who don't know, this is a fantasy archetype review, so again, and you know, it's a review of an archetype that doesn't exist, but could it exist in real Yu-Gi-Oh? Let's find out! Starting with Grimm Lancer. It is an insect effect 4-star dark monster with 1700 attack and 1400 defense. Spec reads, special summon a Grimm monster from your deck or banish zone whose level is equal to or less than the number of Grimm counters on the field. If you can control Huntress Cinderball, you can banish this and Huntress Cinderball and special summon from your extra deck Grimm Cinderfall, the Fallen Maiden. Grimm Cinder, the Fallen Maiden. Blech. As you can tell, I can English good so far today. So we're gonna get more into the freaking encounters thing. Well, to go over it quickly, that's basically how this deck really works. If you remember freaking what was her name? The older one. What was her name? Raven, I think it was. Her entire thing, one of her effects was that she can not take counters, but this is supposed to counter that. The entire Grimm archetype works off of Grimm counters. And I guess sort of like Venoms, but but Lancer for itself it's a really good special summoner on the first hand. Plus this thing is a one of those whole blank hex sealed fusion kind of cards that can just immediately go into the extra deck. So yeah. Plus it's got decent stats for a level 4 monster. So yeah, I'd run this thingy at 3, honestly. So yeah, we're off to a good start. But next we have Grimm Beowulf, a 4-star dark attribute beast effect monster with 1400 attack and 1300 defense. Its effect reads, once per turn, place a Grimm counter on this card. While this card has one or more Grimm counters, this card gains 500 attack and is unaffected by spell cards. When this card is summoned, add a Grimm card from your deck to your hand. So Beowulf here is a really good thing. This thing might as well just basically say they have 1900 attack, considering the fact that, well, it can always give itself a counter immediately, and when it has at least one counter, it's got 1900 attack points. And so I guess the only way you would stop that from happening would be you Salem it. Not to mention it's the Strauss of the deck, so yes, it's got less stats than Ruby, but this thing can beat over Ruby. So yeah, make of that what you will, as long as it gets that counter again, of course. So, look out for it if it's there. If we're in skill drain though, but then again, look for everything if we're in skill drain. So yeah, Beowulf's a definite 3 of. Next we have the next card, once I can find it. And that is Grimm Ursa, level 5 dark attribute beast effect monster with 2000 attack and 1800 defense. Its effect reads, when this card destroys a monster by battle, it will banish that monster, and this card gains a Grimm counter. While this card has 2 or more Grimm counters, it gains 500 attack and it's unaffected by trap cards. This thing is clearly the opposite of Ursa, considering the fact that, well, Ursa was immune to spells, and this thing's immune to traps. Plus, it's a really good card in the fact that, if it battles an opponent's monster, it's banished, and it gets Grimm counters, so that's a plus. But the thing about this thing is that it's also a 5-star monster, so it needs a tribute. So, you know, a little iffy on that. So, I'd say Ursa's still good at, maybe 1 to 2. That's just me personally. It's still a good card, just, I don't know, you know? Wrong button. Sorry, there's a new outlet for card maker. It's confusing me. Anyway, next, Grimm Tusk. I think I said that wrong. Right, 4-star dark attribute beast effect with 1500 attack and 2000 defense. Its effect reads, can attack in defense position but damage is halved. That's nice as a rampart blaster. While it has 1 or more Grimm counters, it gains 400 attack and defense and cannot be destroyed by battle. So it's like Ursa and Beowulf. Not bad. If this card battles a monster, it is destroyed. It is not destroyed. And change that monster's defense position, and its defense becomes 0. So yeah, that's pretty decent. I mean, it's a rampart blaster, but it always gets 2400 attack or 1200, considering the fact that damage is halved. So it's kind of a mixed bag on that sort of front. Not to mention, if you even want to have this thing going into attack while in defense mode, you need to set it and kind of hope your opponent just rams into it with a weaker monster, which is not very likely nowadays. But, you know, it's kind of, although it can't be destroyed by battle, when it has a Grimm counter on it. and it needs the friggin' time to get the Grimm counter on it. Although, to be fair, if you do get that sort of stuff off, and even if this thing does get destroyed... Oh, wait, it is not destroyed. Wait, it says that it can't be destroyed if this card has an opponent's monster in it. Oh, if it's not destroyed, it goes down to defense. This thing's kind of an iffy card, you know? At least it's 4 stars, though, so it'd be like, maybe 1, considering Chaos Max could use it. Yes, Grimm Chaos Max Dragon Turbo. That makes sense. Then again, I've seen weirder. Anyway, again, Tusk is okay. I'd say run at 1, maybe 2, but it's your choice. Now, here's a behind-the-scenes fact. I was originally doing this Archetype like a couple days ago. The problem is, I realized I remembered to write down the next card, but I didn't make it yet. So here's hoping I didn't go through that again. And the next card is Grimm Nevermore. See, it's clever because it's a raven, and it's based off of The Raven, the book written by whoever wrote The Raven. God damn it, of all my times to have a black... I have how to... Bleh. Of all my times to forget. There. Anyway, Nevermore. 7-star Dark Attribute Wing Beast effect monster with 2500 attack and 2200 defense. Spec reads, when this card attacks, it gains 1 Grimm counter. While it has 3 or more Grimm counters, when it attacks, your opponent cannot activate card effects until the end of the damage step, so it's an ancient gear. When it destroys a monster by battle, I was reading it right. Destroy up to 2 spell or trap cards, and it gains 500 attack. Well, at least it gains 500, not 500 attack, but I assume that's what you meant. Anyway, this thing's a bit iffy. It's a good, well, it's not the boss monster of the deck, but it's a good tribute summon monster in the fact that it's iffy, considering it needs to get the 3 Grimm counters on its own, so it needs to, like, attack at least 3 monsters, so you really hope it's just like, I don't know, you're facing someone using a rogue deck or something, and then you just get able to run over 3 cards. Maybe you activate double attack. Plus, it is kind of interesting how it's an ancient gear when it has 3 or more counters. Although, to be fair, when it destroys a monster by battle, I don't think this needs the Grimm counter. You can be Twin Twisters that also gets a power boost. So, yeah. Grimm Nevermore, I think if you're going to run it, you have to run it at 1, but that's just me personally. You choose how many of this card you can run, even though the card doesn't exist in real life. So, yeah. Next we have Grimm Stalker, an insect effect level 6 dark attribute monster with 2300 attack and 2500 defense. Its effect reads, once per turn, this card cannot be destroyed by battle. Not bad. When it attacks or is attacked, it gains 2 Grimm counters. Pretty good. While this card has 4 or more Grimm counters, all Grimm monsters you control cannot be destroyed by battle, and this card gains 500 defense. Stalker here seems to be the very important wall of the deck, even though he can also gain counters when attacked, so you're probably not going to be doing that very much. So, not to mention it can stop itself from being destroyed by battle once per turn, so, it's interesting. I assume the once per turn you can't be destroyed by a battle thing is supposed to be like when it doesn't have the counters yet, considering it can stop it from being destroyed by battle when it does get the counters, so I guess it's a fail-safe, you know? Grimm Stalker's an interesting card. It only needs 1 tribute again, being a 6-star monster, so, I guess you could run it like 1 or 2, you know, just to have a little defensive guard in there, but that's just me. But I do like the fact that it gets a counter when it attacks and when it is attacked, so, you know. I don't know if your opponent's going to be running into this thing, but, yeah, it's an option. You could unintentionally, they could make it so you have 2 counters, I don't know. It's up to the player preference, honestly. Next card, though. Grimm Dragon, and you have no idea how hard it was to find art of this thing. Well, it wasn't hard to find art, it was just hard to find art I could actually use. But anyway, Grimm Dragon is a dark attribute level 10 dragon effect monster with 3000 attack and defense. And its effect reads, cannot be normal summoned, can only be special summoned with its own effect. When this card is in the hand or banish zone, you can remove 10 Grimm counters on the field to special summon this card. When this card is special summoned, destroy all monsters your opponent controls. Once per turn, you can place Grimm counters on all monsters your opponent controls. I don't... It's interesting because it doesn't say how many Grimm counters. I assume it meant 1, but it's one of those things just like you don't say how many, so it's kind of unspecific. But the Grimm Dragon here is a very powerful motherfucker. Anyone remember Megaton Magical Cannon, that card where you have to wait till you have 10 spell counters on the field just to get a board wipe? This thing is basically that, although this thing is actually easy to get frickin'... and, you know, Grimm counters on the field, whereas Megaton, you're just going to be sitting there for a while, having it be a brick, and just praying to God your opponent doesn't nuke all your frickin', like, spell counters. It was easier with Endemonian, because it was basically a bank, but still, I'm getting off topic. My point is, if you can get this thing out when you have 10 Grimm counters, this thing is frickin' like, bye. I do like how it's interesting that it can only be done when in the banish zone, so I guess you could, if it is a brick, you can Allure of Darkness it, which is interesting, considering all these cards can be Allure of Darkness. So, yeah, this is actually a pretty good target for it. I'd say run Grimm Dragon at 1, just because he could potentially be a brick. Not to mention, you might not even be able to summon him at all, but if you can summon him, you're going to have fun. It is kind of funny, though, how he nukes the field and then places Grimm counters on your opponent's side of the field. It's just like, I feel like we contradicted something here, but eh. Anyway, next card. I'm not going to be able to pronounce this one correctly. Grimm Barangle, because God forbid we say ape. Maybe a type of ape, but I don't know. Level 6 Dark Attribute Beast Effect Monster with 2200 attack and 1700 defense. Its effect reads, cannot be special summoned from the deck. I'll be specific, I think that's to stop Lancer. Anyway, once per turn, you can remove a Grimm counter from your side of the field to destroy one spell or trap on your opponent's side of the field. When this card removes 2 Grimm counters with this effect, this card becomes unaffected by your opponent's spell and trap cards. That's an interesting twist on everything, considering so far we've had things that get effects when they have spell counters, but this thing gets effects when it removes spell counters. Although the weird thing here is that it removes Grimm counters from your side of the field, so it gives, even though most of the cards that player has been give counters to your opponent's side of the field. But, plus it's a level 6 tribute monster, but the fact that it's an MST once per turn, even though you could potentially use those Grimm counters for almost anything else. I imagine if this was like the alien archetype where you had a power decrease for every alien counter you had. Oh boy. Barangle is a mixed bag, but I could see him potentially run at 1. You know, that's just me personally. Again, preference of the player. But now a card that is going to be, again, I'm going to say this a lot, I'm going to butcher half these. I'm going to laugh if I end up pronouncing more of these right than I ever did of the Ruby team. Anyway, Grimm Knuckle Eve. Yeah, I think I did that right. I hope I did that right. Dark level 8, almost said it wrong. Beast Warrior Effect Monster with 2800 attack and 2400 defense. You can attack all monsters your opponent controls with Grimm counters. All monsters this card destroys are banished. When a Grimm monster is a monster by battle, it gains 1 Grimm counter. I assume that refers to the monster that destroyed it by battle, because the alternative also means that you're also giving the monster that was just banished, potentially, a Grimm counter. So it's just like, well, fuck, that was pointless. Knuckle Eve here is a pretty good one, considering the fact that, again, it can attack all of your opponent that has Grimm counters, so Grimm Dragon is going to be its best buddy. Plus, as well, it banishes your opponent's monster, so you ain't getting that shit back, hopefully. And then, well, it also gives Grimm counters, so it's a pretty interesting one. Knuckle Eve I could see being run at 1, though, just because, you know, it's an 8-star monster, so it needs 2 tributes, and it dies to Blue Eyes. Anyway, so yeah, Grimm Knuckle Eve, you are a pretty okay card. Well, pretty good. You guys know what I mean. Next card, Grimm Seer. It was actually hard to find artwork for this. Hard to find artwork for a lot of these cards, honestly. Anyway, Grimm Seer is a Dark Attribute Level 3 Fish. I know, I'm confused too. Effect monster with 500 attack and 1500 defense. And I know probably why it's based. There's probably going to be like a lore reason on the show. I'm not judging. It's just weird that we've had like Beast and Beast Warrior and now Fish. I mean, the dragon kind of seemed out of place, but the dragon looked like a fucking dragon at least. And yeah, this gets... I'm getting off topic. Cannot be destroyed by battle. We're off to a good start. This monster can be used for 2 tributes up for a Grimm monster. Not bad. If this card is in your graveyard and a Grimm monster is destroyed by card effect, except Grimm Seer, special summon in this card in defense position. When a monster gains a relic counter, we'll get into that later, you can give that monster an additional relic counter. You can only activate the last effect once per turn. So Grimm Seer here is a really damn good one, considering this thing can't be destroyed by battle. It counts as 2 tributes for a Grimm type monster, and if your opponents say Raigekis or Dark Holds are board, that's okay. I'll bring Seer back and you can't kill it. And you could say like Marshmallow and Spirit Reaper, they aren't that great nowadays, considering everything. But think about it, if your opponent doesn't have a counter to not being able to destroy it by battle, you kind of got their number there. I mean, you could, there's probably a card, they'll probably just use a card effect that could probably destroy it, like, I don't know, like, again, Raigeki and Darkhold, but, again, if they don't have a counter to it, it's just going to sit there, and they can't do anything about it. So Seer is one of those, plus it keeps coming back, and again, it doesn't banish itself, even when it's used as a tribute summon. So you can keep potentially doing this like Keeper of the Dragon Shrine, for example. So, I think that's where a lot of this idea just basically came from, except for the last effect, but we'll get into relic counters later. But if you want a hint, boss monsters. So, yeah. Grimm Seer here is a definite 3 of, just because she can be potentially really damn useful. Anyway, next card is Grimm Cerberus. Yes, I had to go with this artwork. I literally could not find any other. Bite me. At least any other I could use. I'll give you 3 guesses as to what kind of thing this is based off. Where's the Orthros love of the 2-headed dogs? I know 3 is more than 2, but come on! Anyway, 6-star Dark Attribute Beast Effect Monster with 2400 attack and 1200 defense. Spec reads, if your opponent controls 3 or more monsters than you do, you can special summon this card from your hand or banish zone, but banish it when it leaves the field, which doesn't matter considering we can special summon from the banish zone. If anything, the better thing should have been, but sent to the graveyard, considering then at least it can't come back as easily. This thing, I do like that effect right at the back, considering it's actually a nice little homage, because it's the Fiend Mega Cyber with 3 monsters, which you may think is bad, but it's also... But nowadays, it's actually easy to spam monsters at the field. We'll make links to slow down the game. You did not do a very good job, Konami. I do like the fact that it can only be special summoned with 3 monsters, only because it's like, I got 3 heads. I need 3 monsters. It just makes sense to me. Anyway, more text once I find my place again. When this card destroys a monster by battle, it gains a Grimm counter. When this card has 3 or more Grimm counters, it can attack up to 3 times and gains 300 attack. Well, that's a minuscule power bonus, but we're going off the Cerberus thing, so yeah. The alternative would be 3,000 bonus, and that would be fucking busted. So, yeah. Grimm Cerberus here is, I think you could run it at 1 to 2, just because, you know, it's a level 6 monster that can do a lot of things, but again, if you don't have, if your opponent doesn't have 3 monsters on the field, it's a brick. And if you know, if your opponent does have 3 or more monsters than you do, so if they got 5 monsters where you got 2, you can special summon this thing. It's not like the Fiend Mega Cyber where you have to have nothing, or not the Fiend Mega Cyber, I meant Cyber Dragon, but you know. Cerberus here is a mixed bag, but I personally would probably run maybe 2 of him. I would honestly also suggest you actually look up the real Grimm Cerberus, considering it looks far more threatening than this thing. But this thing is all I could go with, so yeah. Maybe I should have gone with the actual Cerberus, or the Billy and Mandy Cerberus, just for humor. Anyway, next card. Ooh, we're going to get something different. I'm definitely going to mispronounce this one. Grimm King Taijitsu. I hope I pronounced it right, although I probably didn't. I had a lot of artwork for this one, but I just figured I'd just go with this one, just because it makes the most sense, considering, yes, these are 2 snakes that are tied together. It's another cat dog situation, which, fun fact, is what Giraffe Rig was originally supposed to be. You can check out some Giraffe Rig like beta leaks, considering it was originally supposed to be a 2-headed giraffe, which is why Giraffe Rig spelled backwards is Giraffe Rig. Yes, I'm talking about Pokemon in a Yu-Gi-Oh video about a Grimm archetype from a series of Ruby. What the fuck is life? So yeah. Anyway, let's get into the card itself. A Dark Attribute level 5 Reptile Effect Monster with 2200 attack and 1000 defense. Spec reads, once per turn you can place a Grimm counter on this card. When this card has 3 or more Grimm counters once per turn, during either player's turn, you can remove 2 Grimm counters from your opponent's side of the field and add a Grimm spell or trap card from your hand, to your hand from your graveyard or deck. Okay, I had a little misreading there. I thought it was just like from your hand to the graveyard. It's like, wait, what? That's discarding. Anyway. Grimm Taijitsu here is a mixed bag because, again, it's a tribute monster. Though it does have, implicitly you have to wait until it has 3 or more Grimm counters just to do a basic search, which, yeah, Ursa's got you beat considering it doesn't even, no wait, not Ursa, Beowulf's got you beat considering it doesn't even need a tribute and it can search basically anything, so yeah. But, you know, the fact that it could remove 2 Grimm counters from, well, your opponent's side of the field and just add spells or traps, it could also be recycler, so it's a mixed bag, but I'd say you could probably get away with running Grimm Taijitsu here at 1. But I would personally go no higher than 1. But that's just me. Excuse me. But now we have the boss monster of the deck. I think. Yeah, I think it is. So yeah, we got the boss monster already. Usually it's in the extra deck. Salem, the Queen of all Grimm. A dark attribute level 12 spellcaster effect monster. And this is a long as fuck text, so I'm actually going to read it from the description here. It's got 4,000 attack and defensive. I didn't already say that. Cannot be normal summoned or set. Must be special summoned with its own effect. When Grimm Dragon or Grimm Cinder the Fall Maiden is destroyed by battle or card effect, special summon this card from your hand, graveyard, or banished zone. Unaffected by other card effects except Grimm Seer, so that it can get the relic counter. When this card is summoned, select 2 of your opponent's zones. They cannot be used. It's a nice Ojama. When this card destroys a monster by battle, this card gains a relic counter. This is where Seer is useful. When this card has 4 relic counters, you win the duel. Salem here is really damn good considering, you know how I mentioned Venoms earlier? This is essentially the Venomanaga. So which makes Grimm Dragon Phenomenon. Anyway, this thing is just freaking amazing. I mean, let's go over it like a bit at a time. Okay, you can't normal summon a special summon. That's just fine. But this thing can be special when Cinder the Fall Maiden or Grimm Dragon are destroyed by battle or card effects. So if your opponent decides Dark Hole, fuck you. And this card can be special summoned from anywhere but the deck. So that gives you so much that you could Foolish this thing. Foolish Burial. And just be like, okay, I'm set for game. You could bring an Allure of Darkness this thing and be set for game. You could bring into this thing and still be like, well, at least I'm so set for game later. And just the fact that, again, it's unaffected by everything except Seer because it had to be for the relic counters. It's an Ojama for some reason. I don't really fully understand what it is. It probably has something to do with the show, but again, it's just like, everyone mocked X Code Talker because he could do that, but no one's mocking this thing because it doesn't exist. Anyway, not to mention it's opponent's zone, so I don't know if it means main monster or extra monster. It's just zones in general. But yeah, it's also got a nice win condition, which Seer can speed up dramatically. And all it has to do is destroy a monster by battle, which isn't hard, considering it's got enough to tie with Obelisk and Dreadroot. Oh. Actually, it's immune to everything, so yeah, Dreadroot. So yeah. Salem here is a really damn strong boss monster, and you're going to have a tough time taking this thing out. But with and no, I was about to start canceling out the video, but I just realized, oh wait, we made it from the boss monster, but we're not done yet. We still got a lot to go. Okay, now that we're done with the monsters, at least main deck monsters, we're going to go into the spells. First, once it wants to open, there we go. A Grimm Arrival. Hold on. Oh yeah, there we go. Sorry, sometimes Card Maker takes a minute. A Grimm Arrival is a quick play spell card. Special summon a Grimm monster from your deck whose banished or banished zone, whose level is equal to or less than the number of Grimm counters on the field. If you control Huntress Cinderfall, you can banish this card and Huntress Cinderfall and special summon from your extra decks a Grimm Cinder the Fall Maiden. So it's an alternative fusion summoning idea in case you don't have Lancer, which you should have Lancer, but you know. I basically have this card and essentially make it mask change in that sense. So yeah. Actually, yeah. Not to mention, even if you don't have like Cinder the Fall Maiden and all that jazz, this thing is just basically good considering all you have to do, you don't even have to remove counters from it. You just have to have counters on the field. So, yeah. It's just a quick, like, a hero lives or something like that. I don't know what to equate it to. It's just really damn good. Although that'll explain why one of those cards can't be special from the deck. I think it was Beringal. So, yeah. Excuse me. Anyway, yeah. A Grimm Arrival, yeah. Run at 3. I have nothing else to say. Next. Grimm Invasion. A continuous spell. During your standby phase, place 1 Grimm counter on all monsters on the field. You can banish this card from the graveyard and special summon a Grimm monster from the graveyard. You can only control 1 Grimm Invasion at a time. So that makes some semblance of sense, or with the Malefic standby thing, bleh. So yeah, this is like the Cloudian Squall, I want to say. I think where it's just like you place Grimm counters on everything. And not to mention, well, even if this thing does get MST'd or Twin Twisted or Heavy Storm Duster, or a Mystical Wind Typhoon. There we found the one guy who used it. Not to mention the fact that, well, if this thing does get destroyed, you can banish it from the graveyard and special summon a Grimm monster from the graveyard. So yeah, it's monster reborn from the graveyard. So yeah. Not to mention, it doesn't even need the fact that since in the graveyard, it could be having another Grimm Invasion face up and you just use the old one. So yeah, I don't know what to say here other than Grimm Invasion's good. Run 3. You had to MST it yourself, sort of like Hysteric Sign with Harpy Ladies. Okay, next card. Grimm Hatred. A continuous spell. During each of your standby phases, your Grimm monsters gain 100 attack and defense for each Grimm counter on your side of the field. Which is interesting considering you've been mostly hoping that your opponent has all the Grimm counters. If you do not control a Grimm monster, destroy this card. During the third end phase after this card has been activated, destroy this card. It's kind of weird this deck has been kind of counteracting itself, considering we've got some that give your opponent in Grimm counters and some that give yourself Grimm counters to get strong report. But think of it this way, guys. If you got like an A-cell scatterburst or some sort of thing and just like have a buck ton of like every monster on your side of the field has at least 5 Grimm counters, all your monsters are getting 100 attack and defense. Or whether it's for each Grimm counter on your side of the field, so that's like a 2,500 attack point boost if everything is correct, which it probably won't be, but you get where I'm coming from. This thing could potentially be a really big power boost. That's my point here. And it's all the Grimm counters on your side of the field, not all the Grimm counters like your cards could have at that time. So, yeah, Grimm Hatred, plus it does nuke itself if you have no monsters, and or if it... I kind of think that's kind of lame how it's just like, it feels like it has too many costs, sort of. Like, the fact that if your field's empty, it goes to the grave, and if it's the third end phase after it's been activated, it goes to the grave. I get balancing, but it feels like it's kind of too balanced. I feel like they should have picked one and just stuck with it, you know? Or at least maybe just stop, or I guess the most fair one would be the third phase of activation one. They didn't really need the other one. But, you know. So just one of those things. I'd say you could run maybe one of this thing. Maybe 2, it depends on your preference as per usual, but yeah, that's just how I think of it. Next we have... Oh, please don't tell me. Okay, thank God. I thought I read to another card I didn't make, like, and just like, oh no, we're so far. Anyway, Grimm Ambush. I'm sorry about the black borders, just ignore it. Get quick play spell card. Target one monster your opponent controls that has a Grimm counter. Send that monster to the graveyard, then special summon a Grimm monster from your hand or banish zone with a level less than or equal to the number of Grimm counters that monster had. So yeah. What's that? You have a, well, that's, how much was he, like level 5, I want to say? He, frickin', I gotta look at the name. Ursa, he was level 5, I want to say, or let's go with 6 just to be safe. Okay, you got 6 counters on you? Gone. Bring out Ursa. It's like pretty strong replacement of it. Not to mention it. Yeah, it's targeting removal, but it's just like, I still think it's good. That's my point here. It's a good card. Okay, I think you can run, and I think you can get away with like running this card like 2 or 3. Considering, yeah, it's targeting removal, but it's also like the fact that you're just getting rid of your opponent's monster and getting something in return. So yeah, I don't need to think it. Bleh. Aren't I great with English today, guys? I mean, I'm just the best. I should teach kids. Grimm Tower, a field spell. When this card is activated, you can add a Grimm card from your deck to your hand. Straight off the bat, an instant, neg 0, because this card's a card from itself, and you add any Grimm card from your own archetype immediately into your hand. So yeah, it's not even if this card is successfully activated, it's the fact that you activate it, your opponent can even, like, I don't know, they could friggin', I guess, Ghost Ogre, well, not Ghost Ogre, but like, what's the one everyone hates? Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, I want to say, like, I think they could probably get this, but, I think you'd still get something wrong, because even if your opponent, like, immediately MSTs it, like, they think you could still get the plus, but, All Grimm monsters you control gain 300 attack and defense, pretty basic boost, but, All monsters your opponent controls lose 100 attack and defense for each Grimm counter that these monsters have, and their effects are negated. So yeah, Grimm Tower here is a pretty good tower, all things considered. It's a neg 0 upon activation because it's a card within itself and it fetches a card. Plus, as it gives your monsters a acceptable power boost, and it gives your opponents a acceptable power decrease. So yeah, I think this card's worth running at 2 to 3. You know, why 2, James? I don't know. It should be 3. Whatever. Ah, shoot. Sorry, in the corner I got a little update. You think? Oh wait, what am I saying? You can see it. Fuck. Next card. Grimm Awakening is a normal spell card, and its effect reads: you must control no monster or monsters to activate and resolve this effect. Special summon a level 4 or lower Grimm monster, I assume, considering it just says lower or Grimm, from the deck, and that monster gains 2 Grimm counters. So yeah, it's an instant, unexpected die, I want to say. Or I guess you could say a hero lives without paying the life points. It's a good card for like the first turn immediately, considering it's just like, okay, my turn, I activate Grimm Awakening, immediately get a level 4 monster, and immediately has 2 Grimm counters on it. It's like that's immediate plus. With that said, I don't really know much else to say about that card in general, so it's just like, yeah, I could brick when you have cards in your field, but again, if people can run a hero lives, I just think the fact is like, well, it could be potentially useful, you know, like 1 or 2. Maybe 3. I probably run 3 just because I'm scared of everything, and which is like, what if I have nothing? So yeah, that's just me personally. After that, we have the next card, right at, I'm just taking the side thing. The next one. Here we go. Grimm Malice Chalice. I love that name. And yeah, I had to go with a different frickin' artwork than what's actually in the show, but bite me. I can't find artwork of everything, sometimes I have to proxy. It is an equipped spell card, and its effect reads: once per turn, your opponent... No. Take 2. Target one monster your opponent controls that has a Grimm counter. Take control of that monster. When this card is destroyed or that monster is, banish that monster. So, yeah, Grimm Malice Chalice is a pretty decent card right off the bat, considering, what was that card? Mark of the Rose, I want to say, if you guys remember that one. And it's got basically that released the Massive Gnosis card for aliens. So, it's a pretty interesting card, all things considered. You can basically just target an opponent's monster, and yeah, it's targeting, but bite me. You immediately take control of it, and even if this card goes to the grave where the monster is, the monster's gone for good, so you don't have to worry about it, hopefully. So yeah, I'd probably run this card at like 2 or 3, you know? And no, we're still not done. It's not with the spells. Okay, the third to last spell card at least. Grimm Scepter. Yes, I used the frickin' Scepter of Darkness from 06. Bite me. Equip spell card. You can equip this card to a Grimm monster. This, I like how it says you can, as though it's like... the fact that it says you can makes me think like, can I equip this to other cards too? I know I can't, but just like, I don't know. It's just the wording. The monster gains 200 attack times the number of Grimm counters it has, and can inflict piercing damage to a defense position monster. This is the interesting thing, considering most of the cards so far has mostly been built around whipping to your opponents, giving your opponents spell counters. It kind of feels like this archetype has been kind of like flimsy with who gets what. It's not, it's a fan archetype, so I'm not expecting much, so Konami did make it. They probably have to fix that thing up, or who knows, break it more, knowing them. But, you know, Scepter here is a nice power booster. I think I've seen a card like this. I think it's like, I think it was Wonder Wand or Bound Wand or something like that, like a spell card where it's like, gain 200 attack points times your level or something like that, or was it 100 attack points, and then if it dies, you get it back or something like that. Something like that, like a Gaga card or some crap like that. Well, I don't know. Anyway, Grimm Scepter here is a pretty good card, and I think it would be good at 1, just considering the fact that you're probably not going to have many Grimm counters, if any, on a card. Plus, it can have like piercing damage, so it's pretty good. So yeah, that's my thought of Grimm Scepter. After I've been done freaking stalling for 6 years. Next we have a manga card, or at least a manga character. Tentacle Grimm. Quick play spell. You can fusion summon a Grimm monster using monsters from your hand, field, and your opponent's monsters with Grimm counters. Those monsters are treated as Grimm monsters for fusion summon. Your opponent cannot activate cards in response to this effect. Holy fuck! Let's go over this bit by bit. This thing's super polymerization on steroids, because all your opponent has to have is at least a monster with just one Grimm counter, and their cards immediately used up for the taking. It's like the frickin' Shadal field spell, whatever it's called. I'm not good with names. You can even use monsters on your hand. It's like, hello, yes, I am. I've got this brick in my hand of the Grimm Dragon, I guess, at the top of my head. I will now use Tentacle Grimm and take control. Use your monster. Okay, here it comes. It's like, it's even counters a Grimm monster, just like, wow, we just got everything. Technical Grimm run at 3 if you're running the extra deck cards, and that's all I have to say about it. But now we have the last of the spell cards. Don't worry, after this we're about half the way there. And the last spell is the Blood Moon Rises. It is a normal spell card. Special summon as many Grimm monsters as possible from your graveyard and banish them during the end phase. Holy fuck, we're off to a good start. You can banish this card from your graveyard, except the turn it was sent there to special summon a Grimm monster from your banish zone. Oh wait, except the turn it was sent there to special summon a monster from your banish zone, and that monster gains 3 Grimm counters. So yeah, Blood Moon Rises a 3 of why? It's Soul Charge! It's Soul Charge that banishes immediately, but though some of the Grimm monsters like being banished more than they like being in the graveyard, so that's not an issue. Next, you can freaking banish this card, just get immediately a Grimm monster from the banish zone, and it gets 3 Grimm counters. There's like, yeah, you run 3 of this thing, and I don't need to explain why. It's that damn good. Sure, you can't activate both in the same turn. You can't activate a lot of cards in the sake of the same turn. So, yeah. Whew. Next card. That's it for the spell cards. Sorry, that's my phone in the corner. But now we move on to the Grimm Traps. Shut up, phone. The most professional man on YouTube. Grimm Unforgiveness. Counter Trap. And if you're wondering who those... If you can see those 2 at the bottom, you can see anything considering this is like a 240p. Those 2 little things at the bottom of it are actually Ruby and I want to say Yang. So, yeah, that's how big that thing is. Surprise! Chimera is a bitch. Anyway. Grimm Forgiveness is a counter trap. If a Grimm monster you control has at least 1 Grimm counter, but that has at least 1 counter is targeted by a card effect, negate it, you do, destroy it, and your opponent takes 500 damage. Pretty basic counter trap. If you got a Grimm monster that has at least 1 Grimm counter... Sean, you're bitching about it right while I'm doing it. God damn it. That's just fitting. Oh, that's going to be funny when it goes up. Anyway, it's just a pretty basic good card. With at least the effectives, it's like you get a little burn and you get the card effect. Plus, it's a good card. You know, you probably run the Salem cards before this card, but I think you get this card's okay at 1. Anyway, next card. Just to help speed up this thing, considering I've got to go to work in less than an hour. I really procrastinated on this. Forsaken the Grimm. Normal trap. Target 1 monster your opponent controls. Place a Grimm counter on that monster, and its attack and defense becomes 0 and cannot change its position. And cannot be tributed or become material for a fusion, Xyz, Synchro, Link, or Link monster except Grimm monsters. So, what this means is you can basically get your opponent's monster that's giving you all this shit and basically say, fuck you. You are now worthless. Even worse than Ojama, and you are now my biatch. Although, granted, when we eventually get the new summoning mechanic, whatever it may be, we're not going to get it for like maybe another 3 years, but still, that card's going to be a little bit more useless. But hey, Dustin's became useless when Link format came out, so yeah. Anyway, Forsaking the Grimm, really damn good. Run it 2 to 3, but that's just me. But now we have to go on to Eye of the Grimm. During either play, it's a continuous trap. During either player's turn, you can remove 3 Grimm counters on the field, and you may look at your opponent's hand, and if they have no cards in their hand, you can inflict 3,000 damage to your opponent. So, what this card means is, okay, you have to remove 3 Grimm counters on your side of the field, or rather on the field in general. Then you get to immediately look at your opponent's hand. Not a bad start. And if they don't have a hand at all, meaning Infernies will hate this damn thing, give them a 3,000 point burn. So yeah, and it's continuous, so you can just keep doing it. You can even do it on their turn. What's that? You just ran out of cards in your hand? And okay, burn. Oh, it's my turn. You still have no cards in your hand. Burn. I just took away like 2/3 of your life points in just 2 turns, and one of them was your own. So yeah, I'd say run this thing at a 2 to 3. But now we have the final Grimm Trap card before we go into the extra deck. And that is, once I can find it, Grimm Eclipse, which is actually, funnily enough, the name of the video game that I think is out, but I don't know. I haven't been hearing conflicting results. Maybe it's up on Steam. I don't know. Anyway, Counter Trap. If your opponent summons a monster or activates the effect of a monster, tribute a Grimm monster to negate and destroy that effect. Then you can place a Grimm counter on a monster on either player's side of the field. It's a pretty basic Counter Trap card. Your opponent summons something, caught at the cost of a Grimm monster, you negate and then place Grimm counters on either side of the field. it's kind of iffy considering you're kind of causing yourself a Grimm monster that could potentially have Grimm counters on, considering things all over the place. But, you know, it's one of those things just like, I think it's okay at 1. 1! But, you know, that's just me. But that said, though, we finally get into the extra deck. And there are 4 monsters, so don't worry, we're almost there. Okay. Whew. Please tell me I have it. Every time I get near the end, I just keep thinking to myself, do I have the card? Please tell me I have the card. I don't want to start over. Okay, give the card maker a chance. There we go. Grimm Queen Lancer, Dark Attribute, Rank 4, Insect Xyz Effect Monster. 2200 attack, 3000 defense. And its summoning conditions are 2 level 4 Dark Monsters, which is not hard in this deck. Frickin' Beowulf and Lancer, done. If this card would be destroyed by battle, come on, stop that. When this card would be destroyed by battle or card effect, detach a material instead and give this card a Grimm counter. So yeah, we were out to gotcha getting pseudo off the get-go. And immediately gets a counter, so not bad. If this card is destroyed by a monster... If this card is destroyed by a monster... If this card is destroyed by a monster by battle or card effect, destroy that monster and distribute Grimm counters equal to the number of Grimm counters both monsters had plus 1. So, the basic gist is, I don't know, let's just say I guess it would be 1 if Zen mains would be the better one, considering if your opponent does run over this thing with a stronger monster, if that monster had even just 1 Grimm counter on it, and considering your queen will probably have 2 Grimm counters on, considering it needs 2 material and keeps giving itself Grimm counters, let's just say that works. You get, that's 3 counters together, plus 1, so 4, and then you can just special summon a free Grimm monster, or rather distribute 4 free Grimm counters. So, I mean, granted, it's specific to monster by battle or monster effect, but I think that's not too bad if I do say so myself. So yeah, Grimm Queen Lancer, I'd say 3 maybe, or 2 to 3, you know, it's up to you. Next we have Grimm Geist, and this one's the interesting one because it is, while it says a ritual monster, it is actually a link monster. But card maker doesn't do links, it also doesn't do pendulums, so I will read you what the arrows are supposed to be. Grimm Geist is a link 3, where its link markers are in the top left, top right, and top middle. So, and it doesn't have a type, so I just assumed it was a rock type. Just because, look at it, doesn't that look like a rock? So yeah, it's the link monster of the deck. And I had to give it link 3, so again, that's why it's 3 stars. Anyway, link 3, dark attribute, rock, link effect monster. Materials, 2 Grimm monsters. Its effect reads, and it has question mark attack, and, well, link monsters don't have defense, so 0. The funny thing is, since they don't have defense, you could actually give them like 9 million defense. I don't know. Gains a combined attack and defense, even though it doesn't have any defense, of all monsters this card points to, aka your opponents. And points to that have Grimm counters. Once per turn, during either player's turn, you can target 1 monster this card points to that does not have any Grimm counters. Place a Grimm counter on that monster. So this is pretty interesting, because if you just gotta, like, get on the field where all your opponent's monsters' big cards are... Excuse me. So you just gotta be like, oh, hello, 3 blue eyes. I'll just put my Grimm Geist here, and give you... And since you all have Grimm counters, I got 9,000. Or, hello, that little blue eyes in the corner. You don't have a Grimm counter? Here you go. Now I get your point boost. So yeah, Grimm Geist is also one of those cards that could potentially break, because it's like the Eraser, where it relies on your opponent a bit too much. But it's... I think you could run a couple. It's in the extra deck, so you don't have to worry about breaking into it. So you get 2 or 3. It depends on preference. Now we can have a card that, well, should I do the one we've been building up to? I think I could save that one for last, hoping I don't miss it. Now we have Grimm Hydra, a fusion dark level 11 effect monster, a reptile fusion effect. 2,900 attack and 1,400 defense. And yeah, it says Hydra in the corner. Bite me. Its summoning conditions are 3 Grimm monsters. And don't forget, thanks to the Super Poly, you don't have to worry about that. Cannot be destroyed by battle. When this card attacks or is attacked, it gains 1 Grimm counter. When this card has... When this card has 4 or more Grimm counters, once per turn you can target 1 monster your opponent controls, destroy it, and gain life points equal to half its attack. And it's just... attack, not original attack, so if it's got like, I don't know, if it's got a lot of big burst on it, like from a bunch of power boosts, you're getting half of that. If you fusion summon this card using Grimm King Taiju, which gives you a reason to run it, this card gains Grimm counters equal to the level of the monsters used for the fusion summoned, except Grimm King Taiju. So yeah, this thing can come out with 4 stars, but basically no issue. This thing is a freaking powerhouse. I mean, yeah, it's got 3, doesn't have, yeah, Blue Eyes could still run it over, but here's the thing, it's gonna be fucking hard. Not to mention, it can use targeted destruction to destroy and get life points, so yeah. Plus, this is the thing, all you have to do is have a reason to run, you now have a reason to run Grimm King Taiju, considering now, except for Grimm King Taiju, the using materials, which can be your opponent's monsters too, considering that Super Poly I mentioned that makes it count as a Grimm monster, it can just get up to like a lot. It's great. Right at 3. That's my point. But now we can go on to the final card, which, even though Hydra was supposed to be the original final card, but, well, bite me. Oh, no. Please don't tell me. Okay. Kind of had a heart attack, because I was just like, oh no, I don't have it. No, right at the end. But no, I do have it. Cinder, the Fall Maiden. Fusion effect, dark, level 11 spellcaster fusion effect monster. I know I said that twice. Bite me. 3,600 attack, 2,900 defense. Fusion requirements are 1 level 5 or higher Grimm monster and 1 Grimm or Huntress monster. So yeah, it helps with the other archetype too. Or at least the Grimm thing. You know. This card's name is treated as Huntress Cinderfall while on the field. When this card is special summoned, destroy all your opponent's spell and trap card zones. Then equip Fall Maiden powers from your deck, graveyard, or banish zone to this card, I assume. Once per turn, during either player's turn, you can remove 4 Grimm counters to take control of 2 face-up monsters your opponent controls, and if they both have Grimm counters, draw 2 cards. This card cannot be targeted by card effects. Holy fuck, that is a lot. Okay, this thing can be used on someone using 2 monsters as itself, so it's as long as they're level 5 or higher, which a good chunk of the Grimm monsters are anyway, so that doesn't really matter. And the freaking other requirement doesn't matter. Plus, this thing, when special summon, it's fucking Harpy's Feather Duster. And then searches out its own equipped spell, and all it has to do is remove 4 Grimm counters from anywhere, and then it can take control of your opponent's monsters if they have Grimm counters, you'd get Pot of Greed. And it's non-targeting, so just like, yeah, Cinder the Fall Maiden, you are a damn good, well, what should be, boss monster to a damn good archetype. So, yeah, I don't know what else to say. We're ending it with Cinder the Fall Maiden. And damn, is that a strong boss monster. All these Grimm cards are fantastic, and I'm sorry it took me so long to get to them, but hey, we're here now, and we're, well, good to go. So, with all that said, this is the Great James signing off. Till next time, bye.